Hey, what's up fellas? Today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to build a whole BMX bike from just the frame. I just bought this frame, all these parts. We're going to be starting with the entire front end. So we got the forks, headset, stem. So with the headset, this one with this race on the top, this like little split race right here, that's going to go right onto the top right here, like this. This one with this bottom piece, you can take that off and then that's just going to go right into the bottom. And the reason you can take this piece off is because aftermarket forks and most stock forks nowadays, it has its own race built into the fork. So we're going to take this top cap off. You're going to slither this right in and make sure you click that race back in just like so. So once the fork is in, you're going to take the cap, lock it right on there, make it however you want. Some of them have designs, others don't, so it doesn't really matter how you do it. Then you're going to slide the cap back on right here. What I'm noticing right now is I need spacers, so I'm going to use 2 spacers. Click that right on like so. Then you're going to grab your cap and feed it right back in like this. You can finger tighten it for now, since obviously you're not riding it right now. Tighten it later. And then I'm just going to move to the seat. I have a pivotal seat, so 6mm Allen wrench, and then it's going to go in like that. You have to find the bolt so you can tighten it in to the post. This can be a little tricky if you don't have like a long enough Allen key. If you don't have an integrated seat clamp, you have to put the seat clamp on before you put the seat on. Slide it in however far you want. I'm thinking I want to ride this one with like a little more height to it. I still have to tighten this seat more. And yeah, the good thing about pivotal is you get to pick any angle you want. So I'm going to tighten this clamp now. Make sure it's nice and lined up with your top tube. This one just so happens to be a 6 also, same as this, but my last one was a 5, so you can just see which one yours is. Make sure that's nice and tight. I don't want my seat moving up and down. I think we're going to move to the bottom bracket. And this is usually my least favorite part about putting a bike together, but I just bought this new tool. It's a bottom bracket press. Tap it in a little bit, and then you can just squeeze the bearings together. I built one of these back when I was like 16, but it was only good for like 1 or 2 uses because I used garbage materials to build it. Make sure you get a bottom bracket that fits your frame. This frame is a mid bottom bracket, and then it also has to fit your crank. So there's 19mm, 22mm, and I think they have 24mm, but that's like on a very special occasion. Very rare occasion, I should say. Your 2 bearings, 2 dust caps, some spacers, and this middle spacer that goes right in the middle of these 2 bearings once you put them in the frame. So for this step, you're gonna wanna grease up where your bottom bracket is. They make bike grease, but I just have general purpose grease. Works just fine. I've been using it for like the past 2-3 bikes I've built. You're just gonna line the inside of your bottom bracket. Make sure you get both sides. It's always helpful to have like just a rag around so you can just wipe excess grease off your fingers. And once you're done putting them in, you can wipe the excess grease off of your bike. Bear with me here, I've never used this thing. So usually the bearings will kind of press in a little bit depending on how much grease you use. And these seem to be just kind of sliding in. Once they're kind of in like that, if you have a tool, use it. If you don't, you can use like a rubber mallet. But with this, a little less damage to the bearings because you can just squeeze the bearing right in. And now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm noticing this bearing on this side's hanging out just a little bit. So I'm going to take the press side and I'm just going to flip sides. And I'm just going to push those bearings all the way in so that they're flush with the frame. So now the bottom bracket is done. Now we're going to put the cranks on. Grease is still your friend on this. So with cranks, they usually have something identifying which side is which. So this says 170R. So that means it's going to be on the right side of the frame. 170 just is the size, like lengthwise of the crank. I'm going to grease the spindle before I put it in. You're just going to push the spindle in all the way through. And if it doesn't go with just that, you can use some sort of hammer. Equal amount on both sides. So I think that is pretty good right there. With your bottom bracket, it comes with a big dust cap and a small dust cap. And that just depends on which side the sprocket's going on. If the sprocket's on the left, the small spacer is going to go on the left. The right side is going to get the big spacer. And as I put those on, we can move to the cranks. Your cranks come with a little bolt like this, and that is to hold the sprocket in place to the crank arm. You're going to put that bolt right into the hole on the crank arm itself. You usually can just finger tighten it just to get it on there, like so. And then once it's on there, again, usually a 6, put it right on there. And you can crank on it just a little bit, and then while it's still loose like this, is a good time to put your cranks on to the bike. Grease up the splines. I'm riding a left side hub, so I'm gonna put this right onto the left. And so if you're having problems like this, some cranks come with a crank tool, so it'll thread right in like this. And then you just have to find the corresponding wrench, grease up this other side too.
That's a hell of a setup, bro.
Dude, not on camera like that. Not on camera.
Dude, there's no way. This one's too
dude.
big, and the next step down is too small.
It's gonna be a millimeter then.
3 mechanics, 1 bike.
Yeah.
And then,
It's always something, bro. We're gonna have to have 2 people hold the right side while somebody cranks down over
yeah,
here.
Dude, this is welcome to the show, dude. You're gonna be on YouTube being a bike mechanic. Dude, you're in the shot. What are you doing?
Oh, I'm so bad.
Much later.
We finally got the cranks on right. We had to add all these spacers. These battle cranks were a hassle to put on. If you get these or any other one with a crank push tool, use it. We're gonna do the pedals. Just like the cranks, pedals have the side it's meant to go on. So this one has an L on it. It's gonna go on the left side. It's kind of weird with pedals. Well, it's righty-tighty on the right side and lefty-tighty on the left side. Usually you can use like a 15mm wrench, but there's also on most pedals nowadays an Allen key on the inside. So the reason that it is lefty-tighty on the left side is that it was engineered this way so when you pedal forward, your pedal doesn't get loose. Because if the threads were the same way as on the right side, it would loosen the pedal. You can see that when you have cranks that are meant to go only one side, and then you flip it, and you try to ride it like that. All right, left side done, and then it's righty-tighty. All right. Pedals tight. I think we move on to the chain next. So for the chain, obviously you need a chain breaker. When you do this, you need your wheel on. So I'm just gonna lightly put this on because I don't have my guards or anything on yet. Like I like to slam it when I'm about to put a new chain on. This part can be a little weird. You're gonna come in through the top right here, in between these 2 chain stays, wrap it around like this, straight to the sprocket, and then you're gonna tighten the chain with your hands to see what link you need to take out. And then when you have that link, hold on to it. So I found it, it's this one right here that I need to take. Grab your chain breaker, line it up right there. If you see that, you need to have like 2 of these roller pins so you can connect your master link. And then you're just gonna push the chain, or that link, all the way out, that pin. You don't need that pin unless you don't have a master link. Also, you don't need to put it onto the actual drive shaft to do this. I just do it to make sure I'm doing it the correct way. And then you can take it off like this and then connect the master link of your choice. And this is where you can see if you need to take more links out of your chain, just depending on how much you want to take out and how tight you want it to be with your back hand and all that jazz. So I might want to take some more out of this. Yeah, see, I want to ride this a little more slammed, so I'm going to take a few more links out. Different day, but we're still doing this. We're going to work on the handlebars next. We're going to put the grips onto the handlebars before we put it onto the bike. For this, I usually like to use WD-40, but I only have PB blasting. A lot of people use these 2, or they use hairspray. I've heard of people using spray paint. It's really anything. Just don't use like water. For this, I just like to put like a little bit so I don't get like bad throttle grip right off the bat. And then I just like to massage it like this so it lubricates like everything inside of the grip. And then you should just be able to slide it right on. Make sure it's nice and flush with the bar end right here. You're just gonna do the same exact thing for the other side. And And the good thing about like WD-40 and PB Blaster is it dries pretty quickly. While we're waiting on that to dry, you can start to put your cap back on. With any stem, you like to go in a cross pattern, but you never tighten two of the same side at once. And this is the time where you can decide where you want to place your handlebars. I tend to go directly in line with the forks, maybe just like kind of straight up. So to me, that looks pretty good. And then from there, you do that cross pattern I was telling you before. So we got the stem all tightened down with that diagonal cross method, but now I'm gonna put the bar ends in. And so with these metal bar ends, it is a Allen key on the end. Just make sure they're nice and tight in there. And I tend to go for the metal bar ends because you crash and these don't wear away in 2 crashes, you know what I'm saying? Like these things, I bought a pair back in like 7th grade. They last until I was like graduating high school. For the last part, I saved the tire outside of the rim so I could show you guys how to put a tire on the rim if you need to. I like to line one bead of the tire inside the rim like this, and then I just pull until you hear it kind of pop a little. And then you line up the valve with this little hole right here, and you're just gonna pop the valve in there, and then try to just line it up with the valve hole. And you can kind of shift the tire back and forth to move the tube because rubber on rubber doesn't slide very well inside the tire. And then you're just gonna pop the valve through like this, and then same thing, you're gonna pop this bead all the way inside the rim. You're gonna kind of hear it go in again, like that. I usually run around 40 to 50 PSI. You can go harder or softer, but you can see it usually labels it right on the side of your tire what the max PSI you can run is. And you just gotta remember that a lot of tires are directional. Make sure you're putting them on the way that it's going to roll forward. So if your bike's upside down, the tread is gonna go pointing backwards. Before I put the rim and tire on, I'm gonna put my hub guards on. Once you have it all set, you can just tighten it down. So I didn't quite finish tightening my front end. You need to tighten the compression bolt first. Make sure that's solid. The reason you tighten the compression bolt first is because if you tighten the pinch bolts, it locks onto the fork and you can't compress it down, so your headset will just shake. If you have a loose headset, maybe that is what you did, and you can go back and fix that. I think I'm gonna take it off the bike stand so I can see a little bit better. So that's how you build a bike from top to bottom. I gotta take this thing down and do the first bar spin on it.
Yes, boy.
No, I gotta show your face.
No, we good. We good. It's
Come
worth
on.
millions. It's worth millions.